What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel. It is time to give you my official game picks and predictions heading into Week 6 of the 2025 college football season. Going back to my picks and predictions from last week, I went 500, so about even 5-5 record in Week 5. So I got 5 out of the 10 games right, 5 out of the 10 games wrong. So I didn't do too bad. At least I still got pretty even at 5-5 instead of going probably like 4-6, which I have never gone under 500 and throughout this series. I don't think I went under 500 last year, and I don't think I've done that so far this year. So my overall record heading into Week 6 is now 30-20. We'll see if we can stay over 500 and keep up with these nice picks and predictions. So I picked out 10 of the biggest games in my opinion for this week. That's what I always do here throughout this series. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. I'm going to give you score predictions for each of these 10 games. Now that the score predictions really matter, I'm really just choosing the team who I think is going to win. So let's jump right into it here with my Week 6 picks and predictions here for the college football season of 2025. And we start here in the Big 12. This is going to be a noon game. It's Iowa State at Cincinnati. This one is on ESPN2. Cincinnati is favored by half a point, and that obviously, I think earlier in the week, I think the Cyclones were probably the favorite, and then Cincinnati is now the favorite here in this one. I'm not too surprised that Cincinnati is, favored here. They're playing at home against a ranked team in the top 15. Iowa State really hasn't proven anything to us that they could be a top 15 team, even though they beat a pretty solid Arizona team that looked pretty solid in the first 3 games of the year. But that really kind of did tell us a little bit about Arizona and see if they'll be a really good team. But yeah, Iowa State looks like a pretty good football team. I mean, this is a really well-coached team by Matt Campbell, but this is a tough one for me to predict. I still don't really trust Iowa State here in this situation. Last week, I should say, I did trust them a lot at home, but this time it's on the road here at Cincinnati. It's not a very tough place to play, but it's the Big 12. Anything can happen in this conference. There's a ton of parity, and it's really tough to predict these Big 12 games every single time. So I think Iowa State is the better team here, but Cincinnati playing at home, coming off their win against Kansas, I think they have a little bit of momentum going into this game. So I'm going to go with Cincinnati here to pull off not a big upset here because, obviously they're favored, but it's against a ranked team. So maybe that's an upset there at the same time. But I'm going Cincinnati here to beat Iowa State at home. I'm going to go with a 30-27 score prediction here, and the Bearcats getting the victory. All right, next up we go to the Big 10, Wisconsin at Michigan. This one is at noon Eastern time on Fox. So this is the big noon kickoff. Michigan favored by 17.5 points in this one. Honestly, I'm not too surprised that Michigan is favored this big. You got Michigan that's coming out of a bye week, especially after, their tough game against Nebraska a couple weeks ago. They only won that game by 3, but that was a much-needed win there for Michigan, to give the confidence to the freshman quarterback in Bryce Underwood. And then on the other side, Wisconsin has been so inconsistent on the offensive side of the football, and I am starting to question about Luke Fickell's job security, if he's going to be able to, stay there for Wisconsin the rest of the year, or he's probably going to get fired after this game. I really don't know, but again, offensively, Wisconsin just doesn't look like they're going to be a really good offensive team. Now, they do have a pretty good defense that can stop this Michigan team on, third downs and everything, but I don't think it will be enough. Michigan is playing at home. They're coming out of a bye week, so they've had some time to prepare. And also, Sherrone Moore is returning to the sidelines, and I think Michigan definitely will be able to go in this game. And I think Michigan does take care of business. They win this one 28-10. Again, the final score here, Wisconsin doesn't have a good offense, and I don't see them scoring much in this game either. Next up, we go to another noon game in the Big 10. It's Illinois at Purdue. This one is on the Big 10 Network. Illinois is favored by 9.5. Honestly, I was really surprised when that spread first came out and everything. I think this is going to be a pretty tough game here for Illinois. Illinois, you got to wonder what the you got to wonder what the preparation is like coming up this weekend against Purdue after, that big win against USC from last week. Is there a little bit of a letdown here for Illinois? I mean, it could be possible. I mean, Illinois has been pretty up and down this year. They did not look great against Indiana, and then they looked a little bit better against USC. So, yeah, you got to wonder if they're going to have a letdown here. Purdue is not a bad team. They look like a pretty solid football team and a little bit better compared to last year. But, against, some of the top teams, they're not really really that competitive, if that does make sense. So I think Purdue does make this one a close game, but at the end of the day, I do trust Illinois here to, get things going and turn things around. And I think they do go on the road to beat Purdue here, 34-31. I think this game really can go either way, but I wouldn't be surprised if we did see an upset. But I'm going to go with Illinois here to defeat Purdue 34-31 in a shootout here on the road against Purdue. Next up, we got Texas at Florida. This one will be at 3:30 Eastern Time on ESPN. Texas favored by 6.5. The over and under for this game is at 41.5. So I'm not really too surprised about that over and under. I think this could be a really lower scoring game. You look at both of these teams; they're both pretty similar. Both quarterbacks that were expected to do pretty well this year. They have both struggled. DJ Lagway has battled with the injury, but I think from what I heard, I think he's going to be able to play in this game. I don't know if that's going to be like the correct decision by the time they get to this game on Saturday, but I heard that he's going to play, so that's definitely kind of a big question mark for me. Florida's a team that I think they're better than what their record would suggest because they're 1-3. They look like a pretty good team, but those mistakes that they've made this year, that's really cost them in some of these big games, like against LSU and Miami, for example. And they lost both of those games because of the mistakes that they made. Now for Texas, they haven't played their best game either. The last time we saw Texas in a big game, and it was on the road, and that was Ohio State, they looked awful in that game, and Arch Manning just wasn't so consistent at all. Do we finally see the Arch Manning that we saw in the preseason? That's definitely going to be a big question mark for both of these quarterbacks, but I think it does come down to a lower scoring game. I think it really does come down to which team makes the most mistakes, and I also think it's going to be a couple of plays that really decide this game as well. But I do trust Steve Sarkisian and Texas a little bit more. So even on the road, I think Texas goes on the road and survives this game against Florida, even though it's not like going to be a big win here at the end of the day for them because Florida doesn't look like a pretty good team. But I think Texas does prevail. I think they win this one 20-17. But at the same time, I wouldn't be so surprised if Florida did pull off the upset here. It wouldn't shock me at all. Next up, we go to another SEC game at 3:30 Eastern Time. Vanderbilt at Alabama. This one is on ABC. Alabama's favored by 10.5 in this one. This is obviously a big revenge game here for Alabama because they got beat by Vanderbilt last year in this matchup. It was just a game where, Vanderbilt definitely did surprise us, and that really just gave us, kind of the future detail about Vanderbilt as well. You got Alabama coming off of that win against Georgia. That was obviously a big win for them, to really, make them a little bit better as a team. And this looks like the Alabama team that I kind of expected in the preseason. But, remember last year, Alabama, we were talking about them being the top team in the country, and then they go out to lose to Vanderbilt the next week. What if that happens here again? What if the same scenario plays out? I mean, that's definitely going to be a big answer to the question there for Alabama. But I think Alabama definitely is the better team. I think Vanderbilt keeps this game like close for a while, but I think second half, I think that's where the Crimson Tide will definitely come out a little bit more focused, and they do show off their anger a little bit against Vanderbilt. And I think they do win this game. They're playing at home. I think Alabama wins it by double digits. They win it 38-24. Like I said, a close game in the first half, but Alabama, pulls away sometime in the second half, and they do prevail, and they get big revenge on the Vanderbilt Commodores from last year's game. Next up, we go to the ACC, Virginia at Louisville. This one is at 3:30 as well on ESPN2. Louisville's favored by 6.5, and the over and under sitting at 62.5. I'll be honest, this is a very tough game for me to predict. You got Louisville that's, not number 10th ranked in the AP poll. I meant to put them at, unranked and everything. I don't think they're actually ranked in the, AP poll, if I'm not mistaken. So you look at this Virginia team. Virginia's a team that's coming off of a win against Florida State last week. That was a big upset there. This looks like a pretty solid Virginia team. I'm not going to lie. They have a really good shot here to, at least get a win here on the road at Louisville. Louisville really hasn't played anybody that tough. This will kind of be their first real test, in my opinion, for the Cardinals. But I've been so back and forth on this game. It's really just a tough one for me to call. I think Louisville is the better team here. They're probably the more talented team. But yeah, Virginia definitely will be able to compete in this game. So I think it's a close one, but home field advantage might be the difference here. And because of that, I think that's really the difference. I'm going to go with Louisville to win this game. 38-35 is the final score, in my opinion. I'm not really, predicting the score. I'm really just predicting who I think is, the team that's going to win. And I think that team is going to be Louisville. So, again, that graphic is messed up there. Louisville is not ranked number 10th in the AP poll. They still have a lot to prove to be a top 10 team and definitely a top 15 team as well. But I got Louisville winning this game 38-35. This is a game that really can go either way. Next up, we got Texas Tech at Houston. This was at 7 o'clock Eastern time on ESPN. Texas Tech favored by 10.5. Of course, I was so surprised that the spread was at 11.5 from yesterday in the upset alert video. This should be a game that should be like in the 6-point mark or maybe like the 5-point mark. Houston's undefeated at 4-0. I don't think people realize how pretty good this Houston team. They look really good against Colorado, in their first Big 12 game. Although Texas Tech, I think, has been the most impressive Big 12 team so far this year. Maybe besides Arizona State. Texas Tech coming off that win against, Utah a couple weeks ago. They looked pretty good in the fourth quarter of that game. Will Hemming can sling it at the quarterback position. And because of that, I think Will Hemming might be, probably the next guy to stand up here for this Texas Tech offense. I don't know the status of their original starting quarterback. So if he plays, I think Texas Tech probably could struggle in this one. Again, I'm not saying their quarterback that was already in there is not a bad quarterback, but I really trust Will Hammond in this game, and I know Connor Weeman is a veteran quarterback. I mean, he definitely has a lot of experience, but I got to go with Texas Tech here. I think the veteran roster of Texas Tech is enough, and I think they survive here on the road in this very tough road test against Houston, and I think they win it 24-21, the final score in this one. And I think Texas Tech kind of shows us that they are definitely maybe the team to beat in the Big 12 this year. You never know. So Texas Tech, I'm going to go with them in this one, 24-21. Next up, we go to Minnesota at Ohio State. This one is at 7:30 Eastern time on NBC. Ohio State favored by 23.5. That is a very high number there. The over and under is at 45.5. Obviously, both of these teams are going to want to run the football. Minnesota's a team that's looking to waste the clock down and really try to make this a lower scoring game, like a one possession type game. But I don't really see that happening. Ohio State definitely is the better team. Although, are they like really the true number one team in the country? That's definitely a big question mark to answer, but I do expect the Buckeyes, to come back, in at home and, really be fired up for this one. Minnesota's not like a really bad team. They look like a pretty solid football team at 3-1, but they definitely are the better team here going into this matchup, so I do expect Ohio State to take care of business. I don't think it will be like maybe a blowout, but I mean, I would say probably it is a blowout if you put like a 20-point win for Ohio State, but either way, I think both teams are going to want to run the football. Ohio State, though, looks to, score a lot of points, and I think they will. I think they score 37 in this one. I think Ohio State wins it 37-17. I think Minnesota scores, but it will definitely not be enough to make it a competitive game. So I got Ohio State winning this one 37-17, the final score in that one. Then we got a rivalry game here in the ACC, probably the game of the weekend, Miami at Florida State, even though College Game Day is not going to be down here for this game. This one is at 7:30 Eastern time on ABC, so this is the primetime ABC game. Miami is favored by 4.5. Miami coming out of a bye week from this past weekend. Florida State coming off that loss to Virginia. How do the Seminoles bounce back after that loss? And then for Miami, are they ready to prove to us that they definitely could be a team that could win it all this year and definitely be the front runners in the ACC? I mean, obviously we've seen up and downs, with Mario Cristobal, but I think we've seen more downs under Mario Cristobal in the history of Miami football. I think they finally get over that hump. I think this is a really close game. I've been back and forth on this game. You got two pretty good quarterbacks here. Tommy Costello is a really good runner with the football, and then for Miami, Carson Beck has a lot of experience. So yeah, this is a big revenge game for Florida State. It's obviously a rivalry game, and it's a game that really can go either way. But I think Miami probably is the more better team here. I wouldn't really say the better team. I think both of these teams are pretty even, but I think Miami does prevail. I think they kind of show us that they definitely are the team to beat in the ACC. Again, my gut's telling me to go with an upset here, but I got to trust Miami a little bit more. I do trust Carson Beck to get the job done, and I think Miami wins it by a field goal, 27-24. In fact, it could probably come down to a game-winning field goal, probably in overtime. So this one should be a good one here at the end of the day. And then finally, we got Mississippi State at Texas A&M in the SEC. This one is at 7:30 Eastern time on the SEC network. Texas A&M favored by 14.5, pretty high number there. Mississippi State's a pretty solid football team. They're coming off that close loss in overtime to Tennessee. Yeah, that's pretty heartbreaking. But for Texas A&M, I don't think they played really well last week. Obviously had too many mistakes on the offensive side of the football with those penalties that they've had. Texas A&M, their offense did look good against Notre Dame, but it did not look so good against, Auburn from last week. Maybe that was because they had the bye week from the week before, so maybe they did kind of come out sluggish because they haven't played a game in like a couple of weeks. I think they finally come out a little bit more focused in this game, and they eliminate those mistakes. Again, I think Mississippi State probably will keep this close for a little bit, but I think Texas A&M overall should be the better team, and I think their defense will do just enough to stop this pretty good offensive team in Mississippi State, and I think Texas A&M wins it. So I think the Aggies do pull away probably sometime, maybe in the third quarter or maybe in the second half, and I think the Aggies win it. 28-17 is what I'm going to go with here in this SEC matchup. So those are all my game picks and predictions heading into Week 6. Give me your game picks and predictions for these 10 games down in the comments below. Thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports YouTube channel.